The Galactic Military Academy's training grounds hummed with the usual cacophony of 100 different species attempting to prove their worth. Lisa Martinez stood at the edge of the gravity chamber, her dark eyes watching as cadet after cadet failed the strength assessment. The instructors, a collection of the galaxy's finest warriors, observed with clinical detachment as each recruit struggled with the standard-issue graviton weight. The device looked deceptively simple, a meter-long cylinder of compressed neutronium, regulated by anti-gravity fields to exactly 150 kilograms under standard conditions. For most species in the Galactic Coalition, it represented the baseline requirement for combat readiness. For humans, it was Wednesday. Next, barked drill instructor Krevax, his chitinous exterior clicking with impatience. The Vrexian had trained soldiers for 3 decades, and his reputation for breaking even the most arrogant cadets was legendary across 7 star systems. A Zenthari cadet, all 4 arms and crystalline confidence, approached the weight. His species was renowned for their strength, capable of crushing durasteel with their bare appendages. He gripped the cylinder with 2 hands, his body tensing as he attempted to lift. The weight rose a few centimeters before crashing back down. He tried again with all 4 arms. Failure. Pathetic, Krevax muttered, making a note on his datapad. Next, the pattern repeated. A Culvarian with hydraulic-enhanced limbs managed to deadlift the weight to waist height before his servos overloaded. A pair of Throssian twins attempted to lift it together and nearly herniated their probability glands in the process. Even the hulking Gorath, whose species had evolved on a high-gravity world, could barely manage a clean lift with visible strain. Louis Chen, Lisa's academy partner, leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed over his chest. His expression was carefully neutral, but Lisa caught the slight curl of amusement at the corner of his mouth. "You're enjoying this," she whispered. "Can you blame me?" Louis replied softly. "Remember orientation? When that Zenthari diplomat said humans were delicate pink things suited only for administrative roles?" Lisa suppressed a smile. She remembered. The entire human delegation had remained politely silent during that particular insult. Humanity had learned long ago that actions spoke louder than words, especially when you were the newest species to join a coalition that had existed for 10,000 years. Cadet Martinez. Krevax's voice cut through her thoughts. "You're up." The training ground fell silent. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward Lisa as she walked toward the graviton weight. She heard the whispers. She always heard the whispers. Humans were a curiosity in the academy, a species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel before stumbling into the greater galactic community. They were treated like children playing dress-up in their parents' uniforms. Lisa approached the cylinder and crouched beside it. She placed one hand on its surface, feeling the cool metal beneath her palm. The whispers grew louder. "She'll never lift it. Humans are barely stronger than the Prith, and they're administrative. This is embarrassing. Why did the Coalition even accept them?" Lisa tuned out the noise. She thought about Earth, beautiful, deadly Earth, the planet that had tried to kill humanity every single day of their existence. The world with gravity that crushed most species who attempted to visit. The cradle that had forged humans in fire, flood, famine, and ice ages. She lifted the weight with one hand. Not straining. Not struggling. She simply stood up, the 150-kilogram cylinder held casually at her side like a briefcase. The anti-gravity fields hadn't malfunctioned. The sensors confirmed full weight. Lisa had just lifted it as if it were nothing. The training ground erupted in chaos. "Impossible!" Someone shouted. Kravax's datapad clattered to the ground. His mandibles hung open in a way that would have been comical if the moment weren't so profound. Lisa switched the weight to her other hand, then back again, demonstrating that it wasn't a fluke or some trick of human physiology specific to one side of her body. She even did a few bicep curls, the weight rising and falling with mechanical precision. "How?" Kravax finally managed. "Your species profile indicated below-average strength compared to coalition standards." "You measured us in our comfort zone," Louis said, pushing off from the wall and approaching his instructor. "This station? It's at 0.8 standard gravities. That's actually lighter than our homeworld." He walked to the graviton weight and placed his hand on it while Lisa still held it aloft. Together they lifted it overhead with one hand each, holding it as easily as a banner. "Earth is 1.2 standard gravities," Lisa explained, her voice calm. despite the revolutionary implications of what she was revealing. We evolved on what most coalition species would classify as a high-gravity death world. The atmospheric pressure alone would be uncomfortable for 90% of the species here. And that's not accounting for the predators, Lewis added with a grim smile, or the diseases, or the weather, or the fact that our planet is tectonically active and tries to shake itself apart every few years. Kravax's training grounds had become a theater, and every cadet was now an audience member watching their understanding of humanity shift. The small, soft pink species that everyone had dismissed were suddenly terrifying in a way that had nothing to do with weapons or technology. Cadet Chen, Kravax said slowly, his professional composure returning. Step forward and attempt the lift. Lewis approached the weight Lisa had set down. The entire assembly watched as he gripped it with one hand. He lifted it smoothly, held it for a moment, then shifted his grip and pressed it overhead like an Olympic weightlifter. He held it there, steady as a statue, for 10 full seconds before lowering it gently to the ground. For the record, Lisa said, addressing the stunned crowd. That weight? On Earth it would feel like about 125 kilograms. That's heavy, but it's not impossible. Most human soldiers can manage similar loads as part of their standard training. Most? Avrelian Cadet squeaked. Most, Lewis confirmed. Humans who specialize in strength training can lift significantly more. But we prefer to be well-rounded. We don't just rely on strength. Kravax picked up his datapad with trembling claws. Everything he thought he knew about the new species had just been turned inside out. Humans weren't the weak administrative support race the Coalition had assumed. They were survivors from a world that would kill most species within hours of landing. Attention, Kravax commanded, and the training ground snapped to order. It appears that the Coalition's intelligence on humanity was incomplete. All cadets will participate in cross-training with human instructors beginning next cycle. We have much to learn. As the assembly dispersed, Lisa and Lewis walked back toward the barracks. Behind them, they could hear the frantic conversations, the recalculations, the sudden fear and respect in voices that had been dismissive just minutes before. Think they'll leave us alone now? Lisa asked. Lewis laughed. No. Now they'll want to know what else we're hiding. Lisa smiled. Let them wonder. Humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition not as supplicants, but as equals. And if the rest of the galaxy was just now figuring that out, well, that was their problem. The weight had been lifted. In more ways than one,